Welcome to The Human Condition, a weekly podcast that explores the interconnectedness of our physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Join us as we delve into topics such as fitness, nutrition, mental health, and motivation, and learn how to cultivate a holistic approach to living your best life. The Human Condition will inspire and empower you to take control of your health and happiness. My name's Robert.
And my name is Dylan, co-host alongside Robert. Welcome to the podcast, episode 2 already.
Hola, Dylan.
Hola. I wanted to start off this podcast because I'm feeling really good because we just did an ice plunge. And I thought it'd be cool to start a new segment on this show where we do something that's trending in the fitness industry. And right now, ice baths are trending. So it's totally on topic.
Yeah, that wasn't that enjoyable, to be honest with you, but
yeah.
whatever.
So for those of you listening or watching, we just indulged in an ice bath. And for those of you that don't know, an ice bath is essentially where you plunge yourself into a body of water. You can do cold showers as well. It has some of the same benefits, but not as much benefits as if you fully submerge your body. But essentially, it's where you submerge your body, neck up to your neck, preferably, into a body of water that's anywhere from 56 to 57 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 14 degrees Celsius, if I'm not mistaken.
And to be clear, the water today was 55 degrees.
The water today was
Fahrenheit.
55 degrees, but it feels really good. The benefits of ice baths are insane. I mean, I don't know if you know some of the benefits of ice baths, but first of all, it increases blood circulation like crazy, which is just really good for many different aspects of life. It also increases your brown fat and gets rid of your visceral fat. And then on top of that, it spikes your dopamine, but in a positive way. Not like, for example, when you do drugs, your dopamine spikes. When you go on TikTok, your dopamine spikes. But this spikes through a self-discipline act, which there's many studies that we can go into in depth in the future too. But I'm reading a book about this actually. And when you do things that involve self-discipline, like for example, getting in an ice bath, and you spike your dopamine that way, it completely transforms the way your day goes. And it kind of just sets you up for success the rest of the day. And that dopamine, that high, sticks with you. And it's not a negative dopamine high, which is really interesting and really cool.
Well, I definitely did not feel like dopamine was flowing through me when I got in there. I felt like extreme cold was flowing through me, which was intense getting in. I mean, granted, after a period of time, you do get used to it. But it was, that was my first time doing it. 55 was super, super cold.
No, it was cold. It was really cold.
For sure, like super freezing. And so I was not feeling that vibe. But, you know, when you get out, it's weird. I thought I'd be cold. And I felt like I was on fire. I felt like somebody lit me on fire, literally.
So that's exactly one of the benefits right there. And the reason you feel that way is because the immense amount of blood flow you have happening through your body. That's why you're all red too. Your blood flow is increasing like crazy. And you feel that when you get out. That's why when you get out of cold baths or an ice bath in this case, you don't feel cold. You actually feel hot, because what happens when your body gets in cold water like that is it adapts to its environment and it actually increases the internal temperature of your body.
Yeah, well, it also increased my annoyedness when I got in, if that's a word, because I was just like, dude, that was intense.
Yeah, it was really intense.
I did read that. There's some cognitive benefits to it, which is nice.
There's a ton of benefits as well.
And I've been focused really more on the cognitive side recently, just because, I was listening to a podcast the other day and they talked about, neuroplasticity and, how you can increase neuroplasticity. So basically under 25 years old, you have a higher propensity for a greater neuroplasticity, which is your ability to learn. And then after 25, that kind of goes down, with the exception of a couple of things. One is if you're like against a deadline, there's a lot of consequence for not being able to get something done. Your neuroplasticity can increase. It can spike as if you were a child.
Right.
Another thing that makes your neuroplasticity increase is when and this was super interesting to me, it's when you get something wrong. So, but it's not like you get it wrong. It's not like when you get it wrong, you're like, oh man, I got it wrong. It's like when you're mad, you got it wrong. When you see something and then a few minutes later you revisit it because there's that spatial time.
Yeah.
Repetition.
Like last podcast, I got the name of the author wrong for Atomic Habits, and then we came back to it
and you'll never forget it's James Clear.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So that's what it does is when you get it wrong and you're like mad or you're upset with yourself, your neuroplasticity spikes again.
Okay.
So that's what happens when you're doing the spatial time learning.
Okay.
And then they kind of go back, and a lot of like programs will do that, like a Rosetta Stone or Pimsleur or all those types of ones.
First
will
thing
do
when
that.
when you started talking about that, the first thing that came to my head was language. Was definitely to do with language.
Well, and that's where I was getting it, because I was super focused on trying to figure out how can I learn more effectively? How can I learn better? Obviously, exercise, helps your cognitive abilities. The cold plunges help your cognitive abilities. Stressing out your body in a positive way will help do those things. But also, when you get upset and when you feel stressed, it can also increase your neuroplasticity, which will then allow you to learn something faster.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when I'm now going through, because I've been trying to learn language better and it's been super difficult, and I sincerely get mad, especially if I saw something like 10 times and I'm like, dude, how can I keep getting this wrong?
Totally.
And then it's like fully imprinted.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to, that's why it's so important to be passionate about what you want to do.
Yeah.
Right. So for example, if you want to get better fitness, or if you want to learn something quicker, you have to find ways to be passionate about it, because when you're passionate about it, that is the starting point
Totally.
to be able to
Yeah.
learn it faster or better or more efficiently, because that's when you get your emotions involved.
Yeah.
Like when I really need to figure out language because I need to take a big test on that.
Right.
So it's like, okay, well, I'm passionate about it. I have a deadline and I really want to learn it. So I start getting, the more upset I get because I am passionate,
Yeah.
the more my neuroplasticity will spike, and then therefore I'll be able to remember it more. So it's kind of an interesting thing, which you see, and you see it even with, I would, assume like obese people who make that decision to finally correct their life. It's interesting. I went to our chiropractor, who was, he's really super holistic guy.
Yeah.
And I was with somebody who had lost like 70 pounds, an insane amount. And he was like, congratulations, you just added 10 years to your life.
Yeah.
Right.
It's true.
Which
It's true.
was awesome. And when speaking with that person about, hey, how'd you lose so much weight? Like it's like a half a person.
Yeah.
They were able to lose. And it's because something triggered. They got passionate about it, right?
Totally.
It was not, I'm sick of feeling fat. It's not, I'm sick of feeling this way. I can't, I can't keep up with people in my same age group, peer group, whatever, and feel good. And so there was that switch that they had where they, because even when I talk to other people about, some people are saying, hey, you're getting a little manic, or you're getting a little obsessive on certain things that I want to learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you have to.
Yeah. No,
Because
I
if
agree.
you don't, you can't do it.
You have to get
halfway.
manic. You have to get manic about it, but you also have to find a balance with other aspects of your life as well. But I've noticed this with learning Portuguese. And that's actually interesting that you bring that up, because now reflecting on it, I'm like, oh yeah. Ever from the moment I got passionate about certain aspects of the culture, like how my wife is Portuguese and stuff, fell in love with some of the music, I noticed that I learned a lot faster certain parts of the language. And as well, when it comes to, because I'm studying to get my to become a certified strength and conditioning coach. You need a bachelor's degree to do that, which I have, but you also need to study through a whole textbook and take a massive test. And I'm studying the textbook, and right now I struggle with the bone structures, because you have to memorize the bone structure and like all of the crazy names for those. And in doing that, I get really frustrated when I go and go back to take practice tests and stuff. I get so frustrated because I keep forgetting like some of the main ones, but I'm really passionate about it. But it's funny you said that, because I now remember there's one specific bone structure that I now remember because I got it wrong so many times. So that's an interesting point.
Well, when I was in school learning bone structure, I would actually punch myself in the area I wanted to learn, and I would say it. I mean, I'm not recommending anybody do that, but it totally worked for me at the time.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not going to do that.
I was so angry I couldn't
Yeah.
remember it. I was like, all right, wherever it is, I'm just going to punch myself right there, and I'm going to go.
That's pretty
and
funny.
so, but for me at the time, that worked. Again, not advisable. Don't do that at home. But it does help you, because you need that extra one thing. And because the other thing with you bringing up the Portuguese, I think it's also the fact that you had pressure, right? Because you need to make money here. Like, you need to have a
Right.
career, a job, a thing to do, right? And in order to do that, you need to speak the language.
Totally.
You need to assimilate into the culture. You need to be able to communicate with people. And so you had pressure and passion.
Yeah.
And that is, those two things combined
A line, yeah.
are what's going to expedite the process of learning and really, like, you know, taking it in and making it your own, right?
Definitely.
Because a lot of it, I mean, one of the things I heard about the language side of it is, you know, you've really got it when two things happen. One, you dream in that language. And two, you can make somebody laugh in that language because you are actually funny, not because they're laughing at you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
They're laughing with you.
You have to distinguish that. Yeah.
So if you can use humor and you dream in it,
Yeah.
those are the two things that were like the inflection points that people always said, that's when I really started getting it. And I feel like the same thing happens with health, right?
Yeah.
Because when you start on your path to getting healthier, and whatever that looks like, you know, whether it's for weight loss, whether it's for gaining muscle, whatever the case may be, you know, the first week, 2 weeks are terrible. But then you have this breakthrough. It's like a really bad example, but it's funny. I don't know if you ever saw Family Guy, where Brian became a runner.
I didn't know.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Okay, so this Family Guy episode, Brian, which is the dog, met a girl, and he started running, and he's like, this is terrible. Like, he had cramps, and he's like, why would people do this? But then he kept running, and then eventually he got what's known in the runner world as a runner's high.
Yeah.
And it's like this euphoric, like dopamine, you know, you get really excited. And he went super obsessive about it. It was like
Right.
a really funny episode. But you see that point where it's terrible until it's not terrible.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of things are like that. I feel like the health is like that. Certainly the diet's like that.
The ice baths are like that.
Because we talked about it. I mean, I feel like diet's probably 90% for me. And 10%, like, it's easier for me to work out than it is to work on my diet. Because the diet's always, it's like, it never stops. You're always like, what am I eating? Is this bad? Well, what's the consequences if it is bad versus how much I want it right now? Okay. Do I really want to deal with that? Like, it's habitual. And, you know, it's tough. And sometimes I will make the decision because I really want it. And I have a serious sugar problem.
I hate when people put percentages on it, because the way I view it, it's like, if you have a car being your body, working out's like the engine, and in my opinion, nutrition is like the gas. You can't go anywhere without the other one, but you can also choose if you want to put bad oil or gas in your car, or if you want to put Supreme oil in your car, which will last longer. So I liken it to that. So I just read a study, to go back to the ice bath topic, on ice baths. So recently, so we all know that, you know, at least, like, we've always seen in movies or just in the past on Instagram or whatever, TV shows, we've always known or seen athletes like footballers take ice baths after their games or after working out or whatever. And usually that's because it increases recovery. It helps you with recovery. And that's true. But new studies have come out. There was a study I was reading. It was a meta-analysis done by 10 different authors. And it was really interesting because it talks about how beneficial ice baths are, but it also talks about how it could actually be poorly affecting those who are going for a goal of hypertrophy. Now, for those of you that don't know, hypertrophy is where you're trying to just build muscle. Now, for me, that's what my goal is, but I like ice baths because I like all the other benefits. So basically what the study was saying is, if you go and do weight training and then you go and do an ice bath after, it will actually tamper or inhibit your potential to trigger hypertrophy or get muscle growth. The reason being is because the ice water or the ice baths help reduce inflammation, and your muscles are inflamed after working out. Mm-hmm. Now, what new studies have found is that if you actually just flip that, you can reap the benefits of an ice bath and still the benefits of hypertrophy or muscle growth. So basically, what you do is you start with an ice bath, and then after your ice bath, maybe an hour, 30 minutes, an hour, maybe even 2 hours after, then you can go and do your weight training session, and then you'll have the dopamine high amongst all the other benefits of ice baths, and you'll also be able to not inhibit your muscle growth potential.
Well, you know, that's interesting because, you know, I'm sure you felt it today, even after the ice bath. The level of energy you have afterwards is intense.
Yeah, I mean, right
It's
now
like, it's like 10 cups of coffee.
We did the ice bath 30 minutes before this podcast, and I'm all giddy right now. I'm jazzing.
like
Yeah.
a giddy like a schoolgirl.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, but I would just say you get this insane amount of energy afterwards. Now, I preferred to do the opposite. I preferred to do the workout first because I don't want to feel like my legs are about to explode, which is what they felt like.
Yeah, but in doing so, you're potentially reducing the chances. I don't know if I'm wording this correctly, but reducing the chances. I'd have to look back on the study to see exactly how it was worded. But you're essentially reducing the possibility of your muscle growth. So if muscle growth is your number one priority, which I know it's not, but you could, by just simply flipping the times you do the ice bath and weight training, you can actually get both benefits. So I don't see what the point is to do an ice bath after working out, if that's the case.
Well, unless you're not looking to build. I mean, I burned a tremendous amount of calories.
Right. If you're looking for recovery as your main focus, I understand. I get it.
Yeah, and I was looking for more recovery.
Which is why footballers do it after working out as well, because they need to recover fast.
Yeah, and when you say footballers, because we're in Europe, you're talking about soccer.
Yeah.
For the U.S.
Yeah. Sorry.
U.S. listeners to this. Yeah, and that's
I'm so European now.
It's like, bro. But yeah, I mean that's I like the feeling of working out first, having the ice bath second, because then I feel like I kind of did before I started working out, which is really what I want. I just wanted to work out for the benefits of the caloric burn that I received, not so much.
Yeah, I get it.
Not so much for the hypertrophy or whatever. Going through that. Now we did go into the jacuzzi afterwards. You refused. You recused yourself from the jacuzzi. I went into the jacuzzi, and it was amazing.
So the reason I didn't want to go in the jacuzzi is because I wanted to stay with that. Well, first of all, when you get in cold water, your internal body temperature increases to adapt to your environment. And the opposite happens when you get in hot water or a sauna or whatever. It decreases your internal body temperature. So I wanted to keep my internal body temperature high and ride that dopamine high and ride all of those benefits from the ice baths. I wanted to stay with that, and I didn't want to get in the jacuzzi. I understand why you guys did. And there are, hot water, there's benefits to that as well. But I wanted to stick with that. That's why I didn't get in.
Yeah. Well, for me, I loved the kind of, I guess in food, likening it to food, because I think about food a lot, is, you have that like salty and sweet, and it goes perfect. And I felt that way about this ice plunge into a jacuzzi.
Well, you got to build a sauna, and then you can get the true ice bath.
I want to do the sauna. But I'm like a measure 4 times, cut once. And so I've been researching the sauna. I know exactly where I want the dry, and to be specific, dry sauna.
Yeah, dry saunas. I prefer dry saunas.
Yeah, I'm a big dry sauna fan. I know where I want the dry sauna. Now it's just a function of, which one I want to buy. I definitely want to get like the 3-person one. If possible.
Yeah.
But
I'll come drive to your house and use it all the time.
Well, and it'll be right next to the pool, which was the ice bath that I
was
cold.
The pool is actually lower than the temperature of what the ice bath recommendation is, which is, I mean, it's fine, but I'm just saying, like, it's cold enough to be considered an ice bath.
Yeah.
And it was icing on the cake, freezing outside today. It was so cold.
It definitely
I'm like wearing 2 jackets right now. If you're watching this, I'm still cold, but
yeah, you could definitely feel that for sure.
So I was working out with, so I work out at 7:30 in the morning. I talked about that in the last episode. Terrible. And I work out with a buddy of mine because he has to go to work too. Mm-hmm. So our schedules align. So we go and spot each other and work out. His name's Luis. Anyways, we were at the gym the other day, and I was telling him a story about something that happened. So I was telling him how, I've been training you off and on for a little bit now. And I was talking to him about how you were doing your weigh-in one time. And I was telling him how you took a photo of your weight and then you didn't realize it. And obviously, for those of you that do weigh-ins alone, the best time to do a weigh-in is usually in the morning when you first wake up. And it's usually in your boxers, in your underwear, or naked. Because you don't want any clothes to tip the scale heavier than you are. And in this case, he decided to...
Well, I'll tell the story. So what happened was I was on a big weight loss journey, and I had lost a lot of weight. And I got on the scale and I was like, and I always weighed myself naked because I didn't even want like an ounce of extra weight on there. Right?
Totally, yeah.
And so I got on the scale and I didn't realize the scales were reflective. Right. And I was like, so I stood on it and I'm more focused on what the scale said, not on what the reflection was coming back of like my undercarriage.
And we have a family group chat. So it's him, myself, my younger sister, and my mom. And he sends the photo of his weight into the group chat.
And I send it out. I'm like, hey, check this out. This is amazing. Look how far down I got.
We were all so shook. My younger sister, her name's Kaylee. She was so shook. She was like, oh.
It took me like, after I'd sent it, it took me like 3 or 4 minutes before I was like, oh, wait. Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. There's way more there than I thought.
Oh my gosh. That was traumatizing. But man, that was funny. Luis was cracking up too.
Well, I will say though, the weight loss, actually, if you guys focus on the intent on why I had sent that, was impressive. It's just everything else.
Yeah, I mean the numbers.
Everything
else
else
the numbers were good.
was scarring, and
everything else was scarring.
I needed to give you a reason to see a psychiatrist down the line, right? I mean, so I want a 10% commission from your psychiatrist. All of
Man, that was brutal. That was brutal. I'm about to be a parent soon. I have a kid on the way. He's due in May, which is exciting.
In like May 22nd or something?
May 22nd. Yeah, he's due soon. But she's popping. She's popping, Adriana. So
dude,
who knows?
She's getting big.
It could come out any day. So I wanted to talk about fitness balance as a parent because everyone's like, oh, man, you're going to get no sleep. You're not going to be able to work out. And I get that to a certain degree, but I absolutely will still work out. And I've been playing around with different programs to do. And granted, I do know and expect my schedule to be totally off and wonky and to get crap sleep and all that. But I wanted to talk about what your perspective is on. I mean, you've had 3 kids but you are never really into working out. But if you could go back in time, what do you think your fitness kind of parent balance would look like?
Well, I'll say this. I mean, I surfed 2-3 times a day my entire life, right? Like growing up. So I surfed a lot. And especially when you were born, because I was super young.
Right.
And the biggest benefit I had was Kelly's sister had lived with us at the time. So I kind of had a built-in babysitter.
Okay.
Not that dissimilar. So it was easy to be like, hey, you got it, right?
Yeah.
Hey, and she wasn't working at the time, so it was super easy.
Right.
And I'd just be like, hey, watch him. I'll be back in 2-3 hours.
Right.
Oh, whatever. So I never really had to experience like juggling it because I always had somebody available to watch you guys.
Yeah.
Right. So I never had to like stress about it.
Right.
And it was great. Right. I mean, that part was amazing because it gave me all the time that I needed. And, normally like I'd leave maybe 7 a.m., or so in the morning and then come back at like 10:30, 11.
Okay.
Like I would actually get back to the house by 10:30, 11. And then after that, I'd be there all day.
Right.
So, and I never went out at night because I didn't, I was never like a party
Right.
person.
Me neither.
So I was just like, so it was really the morning, which would probably be the same for you. But I mean, look, you have in-laws, you have family.
Yeah.
Like it's probably going to be the same thing.
That's what I figured. That's what I figured.
It's just, it's, you grab the time that makes the most sense. You only need 3-4 hours, in my view. You only need 3-4 hours of the day before, you come back and then you can just like be available or be there the whole time.
Totally.
Now there's a little bit of a new dynamic in the sense that you work from home.
Yeah.
And, I didn't work from home. At the time, I worked at a bank. And so I was like traditional, like 9 to 5 during the week, for example. And then after the bank, I had a much more flexible schedule, like even when you guys were super young, so I could go in the morning on the weekdays and stuff. But that's going to be a little bit of an interesting one because, and that's what a lot of people went through, even when like COVID hit and everyone started having to Zoom in.
Totally.
And, coming from home to be like, hey, sorry, my kid's crying or,
Right.
Whatever the case may be. So I think that's a little bit of a dynamic, but outside of that, one of the other benefits was my wife was able to stay at home at the time for the most part.
And so is Adriana. She's available to stay at home.
Yeah.
I mean, she plans on being a full-time mom, which is going to be helpful.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, definitely more pressure on you.
Financially, yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's fine.
But, that being said, it's definitely super helpful because then you can say, hey, look, I'm at work, and you can shut everything else kind of down while you're there.
Totally.
You have
And
to do it.
she we already talked about that. She knows that like I'm going to need my work hours and stuff. But of course, if something comes up, like I'm there to help. But yeah, she's like super good. She's a natural with kids. So I'm not worried about that at all. But as far as my workout routine, I'm just hoping I can keep it in the morning. But if I have to switch it, that's fine. But I expect to work out and be weaker because I'm going to be, I'm going to be getting less sleep, less quality sleep, and be waking up throughout the night a lot. But I will say I'm excited because I'm going to be going through a powerlifting cycle, a 3-month powerlifting cycle where I'm going to go on a clean bulk and a powerlifting cycle with my buddy I go to the gym with. And that's going to end right when, February, April, May. I'm going to be halfway through it when the baby's born. Well, at least for a month and a half, I'll be able to hopefully put on some more mass because I've been on a cut, so I've taken off a little bit, but put on more mass and that I'm excited for that. So I can because I do expect to lose a little bit of muscle maybe during that phase. I'm trying to set my expectations realistic so I don't get discouraged during the first few months of the baby's life. When things are just hectic.
Yeah, I get it. But, here's the other thing, though, is when you do the bulk, the amount of eating you have to do is ridiculous. First of all, it's super expensive.
It is expensive. Listen, there's tricks and tips. You can do it for cheap. It can be done. Aldi, Lidl, they're your best friends.
And it's a dirty bulk.
It's not a dirty bulk at all. You can do a clean bulk. You can get a ton of chicken. Granted, you're going to have to eat a lot. You're going to have to eat a lot if you do it clean. Now, for example, for me, about 3,400 calories a day, 3,400 a day is a good bulk for me. And I was doing that. And there are times where you dirty bulk to get the calories in. And you do put on extra fat in the process. But man, I put on so much muscle the last time I did a bulk and I put on fat too. And that's why I'm cutting now. But to me, it was worth it. Now, I'm not recommending anybody to do dirty bulk because it wasn't good. What I'm doing now is I'm going to go and do a 3,200 calorie bulk for the 3-month cycle that I'm going to be powerlifting. And on that bulk, I'm going to be doing a clean bulk because I'm going to be doing it over an extended period of time. I'm going to be doing it for 3 months long. I'm going to do mini cuts during that 3-month period. So that's where you basically do a cut for a week and a half, 2 weeks. And then I'll go back to the bulk. I'm going to be doing a clean bulk. So all those 3,200 calories I'll get from high calorie, high protein meats. There's supplements that I supplement with that are high calorie, super healthy, full of amino acids, all creatine, all the things you need. Of course, supplementing with creatine. And then also, nuts. You just got to get smart with how you're eating. Nuts are good for you. They got great fiber, great fats, and nuts are filled with calories, filled. 100 grams of nuts is 500 to 600 calories, which on a bulk is your best friend. So there's certain foods that are healthy that you can, if you learn to eat, you can easily do a clean bulk. And for example, Lidl and Aldi, you go there. I'm pretty sure that's a worldwide store. They have that in the US too.
Aldi is for sure.
Yeah. And you go there. Nuts are $1.95 for a pack of nuts. I think there's maybe 500 grams in the pack. 100 grams is 500 calories, 600 calories, let's say, sometimes even 700. Dude, just buy a few of those nuts, $10 worth of nuts, and you're good. Don't only eat nuts because you need protein sources elsewhere from meats and stuff. But my point is just to bring the point across that you can bulk for cheaper and you can do it clean.
Well, to use a bad pun, I think it's a little nuts to do that because I'll tell you.
That was the worst thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, I'll say this. So I used to work with a guy who was a professional football player. Okay. Right? I worked with him.
But they do dirty bulks. I know that football, they'll have them smash pizzas because they need to gain and lose weight quick.
Within a week at a time.
I know.
And a lot of those guys, especially offensive line guys, defensive line guys, because depending upon who they have to block, they'll bulk up or they'll get lean, right? So if they have to be fast and nimble, they're going to go after one like a obviously leaner kind of,
Totally.
look, and then, or they're going to bulk up because they need the weight to whoever they're, going to be defending against. And a lot of those guys ended up diabetic.
I know.
Right. And so like for me, I was like, man, that sounds insane. And
But that's not how you do it. That's not how you do it. Like, for example, you can dirty bulk to that point, and you can put on weight fast, and you can be strength training, preferably powerlifting, something where you're lifting heavy.
I spent a lot of years dirty bulking. I just didn't know that's what I was doing.
Yeah. Well, you also, like, for example, if you're strength training as well and you're dirty bulking, you will gain muscle. You will. And it's a shortcut way. But for example, let's say you gain 15 pounds of what you think is muscle. In reality, 7.5 pounds might, probably less, will be muscle. And the other 7.5, probably more, will be fat. And that's the problem with dirty bulking. For example, a milkshake from Burger King, 800 calories, 892 calories or something, an Oreo milkshake.
That's insane.
It's insane.
Like if I burn that in the gym, but if I burn that on a workout,
If you're on a dirty bulk, I mean, dude, that's a ton of your daily calories, and it's easy to drink, and you're not super full after.
well, I love milkshakes.
Yeah, but the problem is you do not want to be consuming that. It doesn't have good proteins. It's processed. Anything in a box you shouldn't eat because it's processed.
But I feel like you're calling the kettle black a little bit because I've seen you do a dirty bulk.
I'm speaking from experience. The last bulk I did was a dirty bulk, and it was terrible. I didn't have the energy I'd like, and I did put on a lot of, quote unquote mass, but half of that wasn't mass, half of that was body fat. Now I'm getting my body fat numbers down again because I'm on a cut. But if you do a bulk, the proper way to do a bulk is do your best, and it takes so much self-discipline and so much diligence. You have to focus on whole foods, and you have to focus on eating smart. For example, so you don't just stuff your face on chicken all day, because it just is so hard to get calories in with chicken. Mix it up. Get chicken, do 100 grams, 50 grams of nuts, which is so many calories, and then do supplement maybe with a good protein shake that's higher calories, like a mass protein shake or something, which is kind of on the fence on that one, but still it's better than dirty bulking. And then right there, you probably have over 1,000 calorie meal with the nuts, the chicken, some vegetables, and that protein shake. Easily have over 1,000. And then you do 3 of those a day. If you're bulking like me, 3,200, dude, it's not that difficult. It's not.
I feel like it is. And I feel like it takes a lot of preparation.
That's the only thing. The most difficult part of bulking is the prep and the diligence of making sure you're measuring out what you're eating, you're keeping track of it. It's easier to just use an app. MyFitnessPal is great. Macronutrient, great app. They all cost money. But what you can do is just old school, go to the Chinese store, buy a scale for $10. You read the back label, and it says per 30 grams, per 50 grams, per 80 grams, or per 100 grams, whatever the nutrient label is. You put it on, and then you have the exact macronutrient count right there.
And just so, for those who don't live in Portugal, when Dylan says Chinese store, he means like dollar store. Here they call them Chinese stores because they're actually called Chinese stores.
They literally say Loja de Chinesa on the outside.
Yeah. And so a Chinese store for anybody not in Portugal would be like a dollar store, like a kind of a bargain store that you can get it where it's just inexpensive kind of equipment. So
Yeah.
I felt like I wanted to clear that out.
Okay, thank you. For all the Portuguese people watching and the U.S. people. Anyways, so yeah, that's my take on bulk. It's honestly, when I'm working out with Luis, for example, and we're talking, because we diet the same typically too, because it's easier when we're on the same program and same diet. When we're both bulking, we will complain like, oh man, it's difficult to get this, those macronutrients in, or that calories. Oh man, I had to, I was low in calories. I had to take in this, cheat meal or whatever. It happens. You don't need to be religious with it. Because the point, it's better. Okay. I'm going to explain it like this. It's better to have cheat meals and stick with a relatively good diet than it is to go fanatic. And because you go so fanatic on a healthy diet, you drop off and go back to a bad diet.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be fanatical. You just have to be diligent. You have to be aware of what you're consuming. You have to have a general idea of how many calories, how many protein grams of protein, what are the carbs like, the fibers, the fats. And listen, this is going to be a very controversial thing, but I'll say this. If you focus on getting your protein goals in a day, so I recommend 1 gram of protein per pound. So I weigh, right now I'm weighing in at 182. So I like to consume a little more than that. So I'll try to go for 200 grams of protein per day. But recommended is 182 if I'm 182 pounds, 182 grams of protein. If you focus on getting your protein goals in a day, which I guarantee you 98% of people listening right now are deficient in their protein grams per day, their protein intake. If you focused on getting to your protein intake that you need for your body, the rest of your macronutrients will fall in place. I guarantee you'll have enough fiber. You'll have enough fats for the day. I guarantee you that the rest of the macronutrients will fall in place. So what I tell people to be simple, if just to not be fanatic about it, focus on getting your protein grams in per day, what's recommended for you, and focus on eating. Now, if you're in a cut, the calorie deficit that you're in. If you're in a maintenance, the calories that you need to function. If you're in a bulk, the calories that you need to bulk. Focus on the calories and the protein. And if you're eating good whole foods and doing that, the rest of the macronutrients will 9 out of 10 times fall in place for you.
Now, I feel like, because I've always struggled with figuring out, like, all right, how many calories is in this and how many calories is in that? And if it's not clear because there's not a label, you're just not sure. So then you're making these guesses and you think they're educated, but you're not, again, it's like your education of making those guesses. And so, but I assume as you learn and because everyone has a diet that they like to, there's certain things they like to eat and not eat, right? I like chocolate ice cream. I never eat vanilla, right? So there's things I'll eat. I mean, that's a bad example in this because that's not good for you.
My cheat meal it's not desserts at all. It's burgers.
Well, it's not even desserts, but if I looked at the last 90 days of me eating, I bet you there wasn't more than 30 different things.
No, I know.
Because it's all
every time you say I cheated, I know exactly. I'm like 90% chance he cheated with chocolate.
Well, yeah.
Chocolate's your Achilles heel.
98.7% chance I cheated with chocolate.
It's your Achilles heel.
Correct. But my point is there's like 30 different things that I may eat in total. And I think a lot of people are like that. There's just some things you don't like and some things you do like.
Totally.
And so you gravitate to them. But then once you understand what each of those things in your, total menu of items you like to eat, what those calories are, then it's probably a lot easier. My issue was I never really got to that to say, hey, this chocolate bar I like equates to this many grams of sugar and, this many calories, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But I think, and that's where I'm trying to be more aware now to say, okay, here's the things I like to eat all the time. What are these?
Totally.
Because then if I'm going to cheat, at least I know precisely or as close to precisely as I can get. I know what that means, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like what's the implications? Because I know from a workout side exactly what I, need to do to burn 300 calories or 500 calories or 100 calories or whatever. So I can calibrate that, but I haven't been able to properly calibrate the implications of what I've decided to eat. And I looked at the universe of all the food that I eat, and it's not that big.
Yeah.
Right? It's really not that big. And I think that's the case with a lot of people.
Yeah. The only time where it gets complicated, because I've been tracking calories pretty religiously for over a year now. And even now I'll be like, dude, that pizza right there for sure. Because Adriana will be like, babe, how many calories is in this? I'll be like, for sure. That has like 495 calories or 700, whatever it is.
And how close are you?
Sometimes I'm way off because what I'm used to reading is the brands that we usually get, but per brand is completely different in calories. Different flavors of pizza. That's with pizza, for example. But like chocolate brands are the same. It's hard to gauge. It's so hard to gauge exactly what, how many calories are in something. And even the apps aren't 100% accurate. Even the nutrition labels aren't 100% accurate. They're really close.
I don't think they can be.
No,
right?
they're really close, and they get you in a ballpark. And if you follow that ballpark and you find what works for you, then you have like, a general range to go from, to work off of. But Usually nutrition labels they're so easy to follow because it tells you, it typically goes by 30 and 100 grams.
Mm-hmm.
And it tells you, okay, for 30 grams, it is this many calories, this many grams of sugar, protein, carbs, fibers, fats. Same thing for 100 grams. You take out your scale, you measure whatever you're eating. You're like, oh, okay, this is 30 grams. Perfect. This is exactly how much I'm eating. Pretty much exactly.
Yeah.
And
and quantity is a big deal.
Yeah, but
Right.
For example, if you're measuring it out, it doesn't matter if it's quantity as long as it hits the grams and it's in line with the nutrition label.
Yep.
Then it's the quantity you need. Like, for example, if like a big, huge handful of nuts is like 30 grams or 50 grams, whatever, and the nutrition label says 50 grams for this many calories, this many proteins, whatever, then even though it's a big quantity, that's how much you're consuming.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, I get that. And look, even on the nuts, like, as you know, I am really a huge fan of pistachios.
Yeah, but right now you're on a cut,
And
which is why I told you to stay away from nuts.
Yeah, but the issue is once I have one, like I have no stop mechanism.
Yeah.
I'll eat the whole bag.
It's
Right.
it's
Like I'll
addicting.
eat literally the entire bag. And then I'm like, oh man, I can't believe I just ate an entire bag.
Which, by the way, the pistachios that you were eating last time when I looked at the nutrition label, I don't remember for how many grams it was, but it was like, it was crazy. It was like 700 something calories. So you really screwed up there.
Yeah, well,
because you're supposed to be in a calorie deficit right now.
yeah, well, I get that. And, you know, oftentimes, like I'll get chocolate and pistachio ice cream, which is like my like golden ring of amazingness that I'll just like get super weird with. And I would bathe in that. Like, is that good? You know,
That's
and I
disgusting.
did. Well, because your pregnant lady forced me to go have ice cream with her, and I did, and it was as good as I remembered the last time of me having it.
Yeah.
Right. And that ice cream guy is like a magician. He's literally magical. He's like the David Blaine of ice cream.
That's hilarious.
Right. So I was getting it, and it was just like everything you hoped ice cream would be, and like
Yeah.
a few more things that you didn't even know about. Right. It's that awesome. But then afterwards, you know, I thought about it, and I was like, man, you know, because it's one thing like to take in a caloric intake. It's a totally another thing to take in like copious amounts of sugar
With the calories.
with the calories.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Because that delivery system is bad.
Yeah,
news.
no.
Which is why I might add, like potato chips with a sandwich when you're eating, you know, carbs like bread, and then you have potato chips with that, which
Yeah.
are like empty, bad calories for you. It tastes amazing, and I would literally rip
Yeah.
my face off and just stomp on it 3 times because it's so good.
Yeah.
especially with those like kettle chips,
Totally.
which are mental.
Man, I'm hungry.
Yeah,
You're making me all hungry.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So then you'd go in and you'd go have like 2, and then you like suck your thumb in the corner because you feel so bad. You're like, I can't believe I just did that.
We can go eat a chicken salad after this. Anyways, dude, but that's exactly why there's so many. I think it's so important for people to understand macronutrients, and it's so important to make that topic simple, which is why even though it's very controversial and even though it's not exact, I always like to give the protein and calorie focus on reaching your protein goals and your calorie goals, and everything else will more or less fall into place. I do that to make it simple, and because I've seen results by doing that. Now, I will say that's why there's so much obesity, specifically in the US, is because people are so unaware of, first of all, they're not paying attention to what they're eating. They're just eating a ton of garbage. And second, they're unaware of how many calories are really in it. Like, for example, I want to do just a test right now because you don't really track your calories much. How many calories do you think is in a large fry at McDonald's? Realistically, just off the top of your head, what's the first number?
Well, and you know, and to be clear,
it's
there's-
just fries. It's just fries.
I get it. But to be clear, there's different kinds of calories, and those are like the worst kind of calories.
I'm just saying,
So,
don't
so you're
we
saying
don't need to
like,
complicate it.
Like the hideous calories.
Just off the top of your
I
head.
would say there's probably 750 calories in a large fry.
Okay, but I think you're guessing too high because you think I'm already going to say a high number.
Of course, I was gonna say 1,000.
But everyone assumes, like, for example, I know people who I've talked to are like, I'm like, I asked the same question. How many calories do you think are in a large fry? And they're like, I don't know, 150, 250? No, 492 at McDonald's, a large fry. 492.
500 calories.
0 gram, zero, or no, sorry. I think it's 5 grams of protein, which is nothing, and nearly 500 calories. And it's filled with carbs. It's terrible for you.
But it's 500
processed.
It's 500 fried food calories,
Yeah.
which is like even worse.
Yeah, exactly. Now, for example, how many calories do you think is in like a double cheeseburger at McDonald's?
I don't get double cheeseburgers, and I think the meat is like super questionable there. So I would have to like subtract out.
Just
any
give me a
benefit from
guess of a
normal
number.
meat.
Just a number.
I'm doing my math here, bro.
No,
And
don't
just
do math. Just do what's off the top of your head.
Okay. I would assume with the burger with the super sugary bun that they like to jam at you, that just tastes awesome. By the way.
I know you're going to give me a higher number than I'm going to say because you
Oh,
have
no.
to be annoying.
Okay. 410 calories.
Okay, that was close. But again, because I've asked people who don't, I mean, you already have a basic understanding of this stuff, but I ask people who don't, and they're like, 300 calories, whatever, 400. It's like for one of the, I think it was, I'm pretty sure when I tracked it, the double was like 600 calories. I need to double check that. I don't remember if it was that one or the other, or the Cebia, the chicken one. I don't remember, but one of them had like 600 calories. Okay, so I see people order at McDonald's all the time. They usually get like 2 burgers and a fry. We're looking at like 15 to 1800 calories.
Well, because of
plus a Coke. A large Coke has nearly 200 calories. And this is all filled with sugar. It's all processed. It's all bad calories, low protein. Like, this is terrible for you. And people don't realize that they're eating in a dirty bulk, without even realizing it. And then they wonder why they're so obese. And this is why obesity is so prevalent in the United States, because these numbers are here in Portugal. And McDonald's in Portugal has fresher stuff legally. They have fresher stuff here. So imagine in the U.S., it's probably the numbers are even higher.